Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I have this 1 in 35 scale model kit of the Cyclops from the 7th Voyage of Sinbad. And for those of you who don't know, this is one of the best Ray Harryhausen movies ever made. Ray made and animated a bunch of creatures for several B-movie classics. And I've been wanting to get my hand on one of his kits for many years. Let's take a look inside. First off we have the instructions, fairly straightforward. Then we have several sprues containing all the parts that we need. And this also includes the wooden cage, a dead pirate and a live pirate. And the first step, as always, is to remove the part from the sprues. Most of these parts go together pretty simply, but there are a couple which go together in a specific order, so I must take note of that. Any excess plastic is scraped off with a knife, and then I can start gluing together some of the limbs. Plastic cement is the best choice of glue for this. When it came to assembling the club, I had to draw out the hole so I could insert the spikes, and they're slotted together nice and easily. This club is the weapon of the Cyclops, and he uses it quite effectively in the movie. And once the arms are assembled, the fingers need gluing on separately, and these go together in a particular order. Thankfully it's pretty obvious he's put them in the wrong place, as most fingers don't bend into such unusual positions. And the reason why the fingers are separate pieces is to help aid in the casting process. And the mould needs to be as simple as possible, otherwise you end up with casting defects. Next I assemble the mouth, but I keep the top and bottom jaws separate for now, so that way I can paint them with ease. Then lastly, I just have to assemble the captured pirate. And this guy comes in 4 pieces, but don't worry about his missing hands, those are attached to the cage. And once I put the turban on in the correct way, this guy's done. And the reason why I've not done a full assembly yet is so that I can have access to all the joints and fill in all the gaps. Otherwise this will be too cumbersome on the fully assembled model. I just use standard model filler for the gaps. And then once that's dry, it can be filed and sanded, and then it's ready for painting. And yes, sometimes your finger is the best way to apply this stuff. The cage assembly is a little bit finicky, but with a little bit of patience it does eventually go together. And to assemble the Cyclops, I find it easier to slot the legs into the peg holes and then glue all the parts together. And this way I can guarantee it will remain in alignment, because the last thing I want is for this not to fit together once I've painted it. And then moving on to the base. And the base itself is decent, but it's very smooth. So I'm just putting down some PVA glue and sprinkling on some rocks and some sand. And this should help make the whole thing look more organic and less artificial. I also sprinkle some fine sand on in random places. secure it all in with some Woodland Scenics fixer. And this stuff is basically watered down glue that seeps into all the crevices. And once that's all dried, I can prime everything. I'm going to paint the Cyclops last, so for now I'm going to start some of the smaller things, including the skeleton and the Cyclops' club. And these both need a white undercoat so that I can add a brown wash to them. And while I'm using the white paint, I paint the Cyclops' teeth. And I also paint the tongue in a dark pink. I painted the club with a brown wash. This ended up being too light, so I darkened it up a little bit later. And I also added a brown wash to age up the skeleton. And I finished him off with a white dry brush. You can also see the new and improved club in the background. It's time to assemble the head of the Cyclops, and I start with the upper and lower jaw. The head comes in two halves, so add the glue for the horn, the eye and the mouth. So one by one I slot them all into place, then push both halves together. And there we have the completed head. I just need to attach it to the body and blend it in. I just need to fill in the seam lines, then I can prime the head. Next up, I finished painting all the accessories. I added a cream colour dry brush on the club. This helps see the details and the wood grain. Then I painted all the spikes in gunmetal, then that's the club finished. Next up is the sailor prisoner. I painted him a pale flesh colour, then gave him a brown wash to darken him up. And for his clothing I copied the colours from a screenshot. His turban and trousers are green, while his top is red, and the remaining colours are brown. I painted the cage a wood colour. There are a couple of metal parts on this, plus also a skull and some bones. And for the plaque I painted the indent gold and the surface in a light brown. And moving on to the Cyclops, I start off with his hooves. I painted them a black brown, then finished them off with a light grey dry brush. And for the base colour of the legs I used a light brown. And I followed that up with a random orange wash, and this will represent the ginger hairs. Then I finished off with a random dark brown covering, and this is about as near as I can get without using fabric. And for the torso I used a couple of coats of a cream colour, and you can see that the second coat applies much thicker. Adding the brown wash not only darkens the skin texture, but it also creeps into all the crevices so you can see all the details. I painted his nails the same colour as I did his hooves. After all, what creature doesn't like his nails painted? Next I paint the white of his eyeball. And while I had the white paint out, I dry brushed the tip of the horn. And lastly I add some brown and black for the pupil. And this guy's ready to have his paint sealed in, and then cue the reveal shots. I am loving this kit. I've been after one for so long, and it's a must for any Ray Harryhausen fan. It's only recently been released, so there's still a pretty good chance of getting hold of a copy. But after all model kits, if you don't pick it up soon, the prices skyrocket, as we can't always guarantee a demand for reprints. There are some other Harryhausen kits on the market, but they're quite pricey, so this might be the last one you see for a while. Anyway, which of the Harryhausen creations do you like? One of my personal favourites are the skeletons from Jason and the Argonauts. Leave a comment below on what your favourites are. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.